Podcast of heartlandsports.com. It's been so long since we've been able to get together and do this. Life happens and jobs change and people live outside of the United States nowadays. And so I'm glad that I'm back to talk. And, here's the thing. We could talk about spring football because there's a lot to talk about there. But the reality is, that's old news, right? I mean, that's over a week old.
At this point in time, the spring game has concluded. Other spring games have happened. We've pushed out some articles detailing it, but there are some more pressing issues, if you're asking me.
When you say pressing issues, you mean like topic-wise?
Topic-wise, absolutely.
Well, I think the biggest story right now in the state of Oklahoma is the playoffs, the NBA playoffs. Playoffs? What? Jim Moore, man, he was the best. I don't know, man. I picked Oklahoma City in 6. And I got to go on a week ago today, even with Zach and Craig, the Thunder guys. I got to be a part of their Thunder Things radio show and podcast. And that was after game 1. And based off of game 1, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, it was 6 too many games? I mean, are they going to sweep this series? Are they going to win it in 5? And then all of a sudden, Oklahoma City just goes into the tank. And you've got what... I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to describe what's happened the last 3 games between these two teams. And it's so much... I mean, it's so bad. We were talking about playoff P after game 1, right? Had playoff P not done the game 1 performance... We're talking, they got swept. The series is over with if you remove that game 1 performance. It's just bad. It's bad all around. There's going to be a fall guy. We'll have to talk about that here in just a minute. But, I mean, are you surprised? I don't know, Rich. I mean, are you shocked? Are you surprised? It's 4 versus 5. That's supposed to be a close series. Mm-hmm. And everything we had going into it made me think it's going to be a close series. But it's not close. It's not even close at all.
The reality for me is when you stack up the 2 rosters, you're looking at an Oklahoma City team that has the reigning MVP, who has legit all-star quality players, Carmelo Anthony, Paul George, and a fringe guy in Steven Adams for that qualification. On the opposite side of the spectrum, you have the Utah Jazz, who I am a Ricky Rubio fan, but outside of Ricky Rubio, could anyone who's not a fan of Utah have told you a name off of that roster? Donovan Mitchell has been...
I think that's the other extreme of it. I mean, because look, Rudy Gobert, he's going to be, if not one of the top candidates for Defensive Player of the Year. So people know who Rudy Gobert is. You mentioned Ricky Rubio. Donovan Mitchell, I believe, should be the Rookie of the Year. It's not like they're playing... I mean, Ben Simmons is going to be your argument. Mm-hmm.
Granted, he's had a year in the NBA. I hate that. I hate that exception.
Take that out. Take that out, because that's how Blake Griffin... We're all Oklahoma fans. That's how Blake Griffin won Rookie of the Year. Mm-hmm. But take that out. Who has meant more to their team in the playoff series, Donovan Mitchell or Ben Simmons? I think it's Donovan Mitchell.
I agree with you, but I'm not basing... My argument for Rookie of the Year is not solely based on a playoff performance. Does that have something to do with it? Yeah, absolutely it should. Reality, Matt, as we focus back in on the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Jazz, I'm not saying there are no names on the Utah Jazz roster. What I'm saying is give me an all-star. A guy who is...
No, I'll give you that. Yeah, I'm going to give you that because Oklahoma City's got Paul George, mm-hmm. Russell Westbrook. They were on the all-star team this year. I'll give you that.
But I'm saying all of that to say this one thing is that Oklahoma City heading into the postseason was considered, and granted it was because of their performance against Golden State, but they were considered to be a challenger. Obviously, you have Houston, who is a large contender. You have Golden State, who's looking to go back to the finals once again. But Oklahoma City was in that conversation, regardless if they were the 4 seed or the 8 seed. They were inside of that conversation as a challenger to the Golden State Warriors out of the West. That with this team that we're seeing hasn't happened, but I did want to harken back to one thing. You and I previously had a conversation, and there have been a couple of articles I've seen you write that have centered around the idea of Steven Adams being the key component for Oklahoma City in this series if they were hoping to win. We know that he has an injury, whether they're playing that down, whether we have any insider information, which we don't, as to how much that injury is affecting Steven Adams today. The one thing that you said, and I'm not quoting you directly here, but I'm quoting you here, is that Steven Adams would be the key to this series. And I think we're seeing that play out.
Well, first of all, I watched it with Craig last night of the Thunder guys, and we were specifically watching Steven Adams for the injury because Zach Lowe, the other half of the Thunder guys, brought up a great point in our conversations, is that he didn't think Steven Adams is injured anymore. I definitely think he injured himself in game 1. I know for a fact he was injured in game 2, but game 3, Lowe says, I think he's fine. And I looked at it last night, and I thought Adams had a good game in game 4. But the point is, you can't unless you're Golden State. I mean, I'm trying to think throughout the play. Houston, unless you're Golden State or Houston, you're not going to win a 7-game playoff series just by hitting jump shots. You have to attack. Mm-hmm. In Oklahoma City, everybody knows this. Oklahoma City is not consistent enough from outside to win without attacking. And it was like fool's gold in game 1. Paul George, playoff P, having that performance was nothing more than fool's gold. That's all it was. Because that didn't happen in game 2, it didn't happen in game 3, it didn't happen in game 4. But go back to game 4, the most recent game, and you've got Oklahoma City in that first quarter. What are they doing? They're running an offense, they're attacking the rim, and they won the first quarter. But then all of a sudden Utah comes flying back and everything fell apart. Literally everything fell apart for Oklahoma City last night. Joe Ingles is living in Paul George's head. And I know there's different opinions out there. And this is, I mean, I don't keep this a secret. I'm not an Oklahoma City Thunder fan. That doesn't make me a hater. I think what it does allow me to do is see it from the outside looking in. And the truth is, I live in Oklahoma City almost half of the year. I live in Oklahoma City. But here's the thing. As long as Oklahoma City's in the playoffs, it's good for the city that I live in. So I don't want them to get bounced. But the truth is, everyone thought it was really cool when Paul George had that game 1 performance. And he was like just talking all kinds of trash to Joe Ingles. I mean, they were talking about on the radio how Paul George is owning Joe Ingles and letting him know about it. It was all over Twitter. It was the coolest thing ever. But you ever have that moment in your life when somebody just kind of shows you up a little bit and lets you know about it, and you bank that, and you're like, hey, one of these days that's going to come back. I'm gonna, you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. That's been Joe Ingles' life in games 2, 3, and 4. And last night, from the very get-go, when you get drawn that technical foul on Paul George, Joe Ingles is owning Paul George. There's no other way around it. And the same thing with Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook has turned this into a us versus them, into a me versus him. And I wrote about this. I said it when Russell Westbrook made that guarantee after game 3. That I didn't feel at the moment that was a good thing. Because all of a sudden it turns it to what I'm going to do. You know what I'm saying? It's not a, hey, we're going to game plan for this guy. It was, I'm going to shut that crap down. He didn't use the word crap, but hey, family-friendly show. I'm going to shut that down.
You would use it in day-to-day life anyway.
I'm going to shut that down. I am. And he made it all about him. And I thought Utah played it perfectly last night and all their post-game stuff. They were talking about, hey, it's about team. It's about what we can do. We are trying to win games. It's not about any one individual. It's not about any, and then Russell Westbrook tried. To give him credit, he tried in the post game last night, but he totally failed because he was like, well, it's not really about me and Ricky Rubio. Well, yeah, it is, because you made it about you and Ricky Rubio. You can't say after game 3, I'm going to go out and do this, and then have your face bashed in on national television, and then come back and say, well, it's not about, it's not about me and Ricky, it's about the team. No, Russ, you made it about you, and you failed. I mean, yeah, Ricky didn't drop 20 points, but Russell Westbrook lost his ever-loving mind in that game. And there's a legitimate chance he could get suspended for Game 5 because of it. But from the get-go, Russ was out of... How do you have 3 fouls in the first half and pick up your 4th? How does that happen to a former MVP? How? Yeah, it happens because you're out of your mind. And here's the thing. I agree. I don't know, man. I'm just talking now. I've taken over the show, ladies and gentlemen. But here's the thing. One of my biggest pet peeves, thieves or peeves? Peeves, thank you. One of my biggest, I don't know.
Like a thief?
Thief, fight, fo, fum. One of my biggest pet peeves is Thunder fans, and it's not just Thunder fans. I mean, all fan bases do this. Whenever you're losing, it's always the official's fault, right? They go to the Twitters, they go to Facebook, and it's all about how terrible the officiating is.
It's unfortunate.
But I feel like, and I've said this before, and people get mad at me, that's okay. But I've said it before, I can tell. I mean, I was at a baseball game one time. I was covering OU baseball. I'm sitting in the press box, and typically they'll have the Thunder game on in the press box, but they didn't that night. And I'm too busy typing away about the OU baseball game, and I'm looking at Twitter, and all I can see is how terrible the officiating is. And it's true. You can tell whether Oklahoma City is winning or losing by the praise for Russell Westbrook or the trashing of the officiating. That's all there is. You hardly ever see somebody say, man, that Donovan Mitchell, he's good. He's just good. You don't see that. What you see is the officiating is terrible. Now, all that said, the third foul on Russell Westbrook was terrible. It was a terrible call. Russell Westbrook got it. There was a foul there, but Russell Westbrook got a clean block. The foul came on the defender, right? I don't know if are you familiar with it?
I didn't get to watch the first half.
Okay, so I think it's Corey Brewer. Mm-hmm. is defending Ricky Rubio. And as Rubio goes to shoot, Russ helps over. He comes streaming across the court to block the shot. Now here's the thing. Here's my only take on that. We've not seen through the first 4 games, or for the first 3 games, we've not seen that happen. No one has ever gone to help on Ricky Rubio. And there wasn't a need for it. So Russell's playing out of his element because it's mano-a-mano. It's man against man. And his only focus is Ricky Rubio. His focus was not the team. And he comes flying across the court, gets whistled for a foul that honestly wasn't his. But the reality is, if he doesn't do if he plays within himself, maybe he doesn't get that third foul. Maybe he doesn't go in the locker room with 4. And the fact that he came off I've watched the video. I want to get your take on this. We've already talked more about this than I thought we would, but I'm going to get your take on this. What do we think about the Game 5 suspension? Is it going to happen or no?
I don't know.
Do you think it's deserved?
So I'm the one who wrote the article on that for us. It's right there, just in case you're curious.
Heartland-sports.com is where you can find that article. Quick plug.
The issue here is this. Is that there clearly is a gray area in that rule. Russell Westbrook just happened to be the first person to discover. Is there a gray area or are we?
Yes. Okay, you're...
Yeah, I'm firmly in the camp of a gray area.
Explain the gray area.
Because here's where the gray area is as the ball becomes dead and they begin shifting players around and there are clearly substitutions coming in. So the gray area is when I guess you can make the argument, this isn't the gray area, but if you are sitting in front of the scorer's table waiting to check into the game, are you technically on the bench?
Yes.
Okay.
In my opinion, you are.
Okay, but regardless, is the referee now has the option to motion you into the game. as a substitute.
Okay, I'm following. But did that happen?
I don't know, because who was watching the officials? Have you gone back and looked at it?
I have. I mean, I have. Here's what's going on.
It's clear as day to me, and the gray area is whether that happened or not. Whether he was motioned into the game or whether he wasn't. And I don't get the Steven Adams argument. Was Steven Adams waiting there with him? I don't recall.
No, because if you look at, I sent you guys a photo. If you look at the picture, Steven Adams is way down by the bench, and he's on the floor.
Yeah, Steven Adams is, but he doesn't enter the altercation. All I'm saying is, was Steven Adams waiting to check into the game? Because I read someone making a case.
I think maybe he was being sent to check in, but he wasn't waiting at the table like Russ was.
He still had a warm-up shirt on.
Well, they always keep those warm-up shirts on before they come in.
I'm just saying, Russell doesn't have his on. He has a jersey as if it's been handed to someone.
Well, they don't hand it to anybody. They just throw it on the floor for that intern to pick up. But there was a stoppage of play. And so when you get that stoppage of play, that's when that warm-up comes off. That doesn't mean he was calling the game.
But any one of the three officials could have motioned him onto the floor. If any one of those officials says, yes, I made a motion, that's all it takes.
I agree.
No suspicion for Russell Westbrook.
No.
But the flip side, the inverse of that statement is also true. Is if Russell Westbrook takes to the floor in the middle of an altercation and was never motioned onto the floor, there is no gray area in that matter. The gray area is whether he was motioned onto the floor or whether he wasn't, because there's not a camera on every single official. What we have to wait for, those people not sitting in this room who are Thunder fans, what they have to wait for is the officials to give their word to the NBA during this review period. And the official's word is going to carry more weight than the video.
I agree 100% what you're saying. I agree. Even if the official says, if there's no video evidence at all, but the official says, yeah, I motioned him in. Yeah. There's no suspension.
We're clear.
Yes. And I think that's probably what it's going to come down to, because what's best for everybody is that Russell Westbrook plays in this game. I mean, let's not pretend that's not true. Russell Westbrook needs to be in this game. The NBA needs Russell Westbrook. But here's the question. Here's the thing that it really comes to. Someone has, in my opinion, there has to be a suspension of someone, because when you look at that freeze frame, you got the scrum going on, and there's 5 Thunder players there's 7 Thunder players on the court. So if Russ is motioned in, is Raymond Felton suspended because he was supposed to come out?
No, because he's still active on
the
floor.
No, not if Russ is coming in, then Felton's technically on the bench. Because Russ is, so that means he didn't leave the floor.
No, I don't agree with you that someone has to be suspended.
But he didn't leave the floor.
That's fine. I get that.
So what happens if play resumes and you got 7 players on the floor? That's a technical foul. Because someone's supposed to leave when someone comes in.
Someone is supposed to leave. That argument's not valid.
Yes, it is. If you stay in for an altercation, you're not leaving the floor.
The altercation was with Raymond Felton.
Exactly.
What do you think he's supposed to do? Oh, excuse me.
That's
Russell Westbrook's coming on the floor, Rudy. I've got to go.
Yeah.
No.
But here's the thing. So what precedent are you going to set for the NBA? Because Russell, I've seen it. I mean, I've not seen every angle, because I believe the NBA has angles that we don't have. But I've watched that. I've watched it, I've watched it online. I've watched it on Twitter. I've looked at it today. I don't ever see an official motion him in. Here's what the officials are doing. They're trying to get control of what's happening on the floor. Mm-hmm. Because Rudy Gay's not in this game. Rudy Gobert gets, and I don't know if you saw TNT's, well, you say you didn't get to see it, but TNT's broadcast says that he got hit in the beignets.
I said I watched the second half.
Oh, my bad. All right, so Gobert's out of his mind in the moment, and rightfully so, but the other thing that's going on is you got all these people talking, everybody. The officials are doing their job by trying to get control of the situation. No one is available to motion Russell Westbrook in the game. I mean, so the NBA, it's kind of dangerous ground here, because whatever happens with this case will be precedent for other cases.
But that's not going to happen that often. By the way, all I was going to say here was we were talking about the argument that you're making. I think you make a good point, but at the same time, there's eyeballs and money that are going to be tuning into this game.
I agree.
So
that's why I said they're going to run it this way.
I agree with what you're saying, is that behind a closed door, anything could happen, but when it finally comes out, I don't think there are any suspensions.
Here's my question then.
That's why we got the offsetting technicals.
Here's my other question on that, though. Does Jay Crowder get suspended then?
For what?
Well, he got ejected last night.
So?
For throwing an elbow, which I don't think he threw an elbow.
Yeah.
No, tell me your thoughts.
He did. He
has no idea Steven Adams is there. He's not.
He doesn't. You're right. He's
trying to get Carmelo Anthony.
It's inadvertent contact with Steven Adams' face.
Right.
But the reality is that
Steven Adams always gets hit in the face.
I know. The reality is, I know that rule is in effect. It's in effect more so in college, I believe, than it is here in the NBA. But if your elbows go above the shoulders, it's an immediate call.
Right.
You don't even have to make contact on the college level.
I agree.
So here on the NBA level, I don't have a problem with what happened. I think it was inadvertent. Things were getting chippy. It was becoming a very physical game, and everybody wanted to assert their dominance in this game. Needless to say, someone got popped in the face. So no one gets suspended.
So what you're saying is, by the letter of the law, so to speak.
Don't go run down.
No, here we go. Jay Crowder deserved to be ejected. By the rule. The intent was not there. He did not intend to hit Steven Adams in the face.
By the rule.
He's trying to get Carmelo Anthony off.
But you're asking me if he's being suspended, and I said no. Get that out of here.
All right, I'm going to Jay Crowder you here in a second. All right, here's the point. All right, so by the rule, he deserves suspension. Intent didn't deserve. Or by the rule, he deserved ejection, but intent didn't deserve ejection.
Right.
By the rule, Russell Westbrook deserves suspension.
By the rule, was he motioned in?
No.
Well, that's what we're reviewing. You say that sitting here in a room, in a chair, not with NBA officials, not with any execs, reviewing what happened on the floor. Let's move on.
No, I want to mention one more thing about Russell Westbrook. Because we're talking about the Jay Crowder incident, right? That happened with Russell Westbrook instigating a hard foul on Jay Crowder, right? Jay Crowder gets the rebound. Russell Westbrook comes up and gives a hard foul. Crowder then gets in Westbrook's ear. Why couldn't I say Russell Westbrook right there? Crowder gets in Westbrook's ear. Here comes Carmelo Anthony. Crowder gets off of me with Carmelo Anthony, hits Adams in the face. Where did Russell Westbrook go? Well, go back and watch the replay of that. Why is he not in that?
I don't know. It's kind of like that video of the football players where they're doing some kind of handshake and then one of them just...
it's not that. Yeah. No, I mean, Russell Westbrook deliberately left that scrum. Think about it. I mean, he started it.
But
and then you've got...
He also was carrying 4 fouls.
But it doesn't matter.
Doesn't a technical put him out of the game?
No, you get 6.
You get 2 technicals?
Yeah.
And 6 fouls?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he started that whole thing. Anthony rushes to his defense. Steven Adams takes one to the chops. Really, I think it was the nose. And Westbrook disappears. Well, you know why? You know why? Because it wasn't Ricky Rubio. If that was Ricky Rubio, Russell Westbrook would be right there in the middle of it because that's all he cared about was Ricky Rubio.
Let's credit Steven Adams, though, with keeping his composure in that moment.
Dude, he always keeps his composure. There may not be a more composed guy in the NBA than Steven Adams. All right, here I want to go back to you were talking about All-Stars and so forth. Based just on the 4 games of this series, give me and this isn't original to me. I stole this from the radio today, and I thought it was a great idea. I wanted to get your take on it. Give me your top 5 players.
In the NBA?
No. In this series. The top 5 players that have been on the court in this series, based only on this series. Who are the top 5 performers?
I would say, not in any specific order.
No, I want them in specific order.
No,
1 through 5.
Let me give you 5 and then I'll read them, okay?
Okay.
Let me give you 5 and all. Number 1 has to be Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, I thought you weren't going to read
them. You shook your head, so here we go. We're going it. One is Donovan Mitchell. Right. I would say 2 is Joel Ingles.
Okay.
You're talking about playing in a mental game and knocking down 3-pointers consistently.
Okay.
3 is Ricky Rubio.
I'm writing these down.
4 is Paul George.
All right.
And 5, I don't have one.
Think about it.
I would have to make one up at that point.
Really?
Yeah. Rudy Gobert?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I feel like he's missing out of the top 5. Here's the only thing I would do. I would put, out of year 5, I would put Gobert.
At number 2?
Yeah, behind. And then it would honestly be a toss-up for me right now between Ingles and George. But I think Ingles would be 4 and George would be 5. And I'm just bringing this up because you brought up the fact about the All-Stars.
Yeah.
And when you look at this, of the top 5 players...
You're surprised by that.
No, I'm not, because it's the same top 5 I have.
If you're an outsider looking in, though, you hadn't seen a game, you would never propose that.
Well, you would think...
Not in a million years.
You would think Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, and Paul George would all 3 be on that list.
Well, yeah,
and maybe
for sure.
you've got 2 Utah players, but Steven Adams could take a 4th. That's what you're going to think as an outsider. But when you look at this, you think, holy crap, Paul George is the only guy who deserves to be on this list. And there's 4 Utah Jazz. That's how bad this series has been for Oklahoma City.
Can I just say it's pretty clear at this point in time that Oklahoma City's struggling with the pick and roll?
I think they're struggling with everything.
They are. You're
right. It is so easy. It is so... No, not just game 4.
No, everything in game 4.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
So quarter 1, good.
Yes.
Quarter 2, not the greatest.
Quarter 1, I'm thinking, dang, I guarantee you.
Quarter 3 and 4, complete meltdown.
There was no life. Here's what happened. Oklahoma, and I tweeted this last night after the game. Here's your quick recap. I said, Oklahoma City threw everything they had at Utah in an effort to get the Jazz to fold. And instead, Utah didn't flinch. And so Oklahoma City folded. I feel like there was so much testosterone and adrenaline coming out of this team in that first quarter that they had nothing left the rest of the way. I mean, it's like, what were we watching the other day? The fight with the Boston Red Sox, and I can't remember who they're playing. And the guy gets mad because the Red Sox pitcher nails him, and then the guy he slams his bat down and he starts to come at the pitcher, and the pitcher's like, "Come on." You remember that? We watched the video. The pitcher's
The only person I ever know who's done that is Nolan Ryan.
Oh, Nolan Ryan, Robin Ventura. That's another great example. But the pitcher's like, come on. That's what Utah was. Oklahoma City came out in that first quarter and said, man, we're here to fight. We're here to scrape. Everything, you're going to have to work for every single thing you get tonight. That was the statement in quarter number 1. And then when Utah said, hey, man, that's pretty much what we do night in and night out, so bring it. Let's go. And that from that point, Oklahoma City was the bully who had someone stand up to them, and they backed down. That's what that was last night. Last thing I want to talk about on this is, obviously there's got to be a scapegoat in this, and I feel like it's Billy Donovan, but I feel like the problems here are well beyond Billy Donovan. Thoughts?
I see where people are coming from with Donovan because you do have to do a little bit of game management. I think in game 4, when you're essentially the biggest player on your roster has 4 fouls, that's unacceptable, and you should be able to manage that situation. So I get that there's blame that should be shared across that locker room. You're shaking your head no, but you haven't heard what I've had to say. All I was going to say is, does it all belong with Billy Donovan? It doesn't. Does it all belong with Russell Westbrook? It doesn't. Don't lean in, man. It looks super weird when you do that. Does it belong with Carmelo Anthony?
People listening to the audio.
No, it doesn't.
People listening to the audio have no idea what just happened. They just heard me go, wee. Sorry. My bad. Super ADD here.
Here, I think there are other things that you need to blame, and it's this. Why does Oklahoma City go 22 minutes without an assist?
I agree. I agree 100%.
Why did for 2 straight games Russell Westbrook have 0 points in the fourth quarter? I believe over the past 5 games, maybe 4 games, prior to game 5, we're heading to game 5. Prior to game 4, Russell Westbrook, I think, was averaging 1.7 points in the fourth quarter. For the reigning MVP, I feel as though that's inexcusable. But at the same time, here's the guy who consistently pumped out triple doubles. So I feel like you can put some of the blame on Russell Westbrook there. But in all honesty, it's rotation defense. You have to play rotation defense against a pick and roll offense like Utah. And when you refuse or fail to do that, that's when you get punished. And Utah has made Every opportunity that they've had, talk about this signature move from Donovan Mitchell. It's to drive the lane one-handed the whole way and then just scoop the ball up off the backboard, right?
Yeah.
How many times have we seen that? We've talked so much about the Thunder and kind of danced around the issues, but I really believe their issues come to rotation defense and to what you said earlier. It is a me versus him instead of an us versus them mentality.
And that's the thing is that with this team, I just tweeted out because I want to bring this up. You hear people talking about Billy Donovan and he's lost the team. I don't know that Billy Donovan ever had this team. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like you can lose something that you never had. And the reality is, the reality of this situation is those things you're talking about, and I kind of feel bad for him. I agree. There are things that there are things with this team that Billy Donovan is responsible for. I don't think Russell's 4 fouls is Billy Donovan. I mean, he got that third foul so early in the second quarter that what you put him on the bench? Is Russell going to come to the bench? Because look, I mean, you missed it because you missed the first half. But he picks up his second foul and he looks at the bench and he holds his hand up. And he's like, no. So what does Billy Donovan do?
Are you suspend him? I'm kidding.
Are you going to go out? Are you going to go out and pull him by the ear off the floor? I mean, if your all-star MVP is not coming off the floor, you're not going to make him. But how about going, hey, Russ, here's an idea. You have 3 fouls. Maybe stop fouling. But is that on Donovan? I mean, when you got a guy like Russ who's clearly out of control. I agree, but there's other things with regular season as the regular season is closing down. There was a game they lost in overtime. I want to say it was Milwaukee, but Carmelo Anthony was at the scorer's table to check in the fourth quarter, and Donovan sent him to check into the game, and Anthony goes to the table. Jeremy Grant hits a 3-point shot. And Anthony decides he doesn't want to go in the game. And so he goes back to the bench. Well, what does that tell you? That tells you that the coach is just there. I mean, he's just there. He has no control over this team.
Do you feel the same way about Cleveland then?
Yeah, absolutely. Tyrone Lue is not the coach of that team.
When there's a huddle and he has a picture 3 feet from it?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I'm just curious, man. I'm just throwing it out there.
No, you know what's crazy? Here's the thing. The one coach that we thought was just a guy that was there, that wasn't really a coach but was just there, was Eric Spoelstra. You remember when he had everything going on in Miami?
I always thought that.
But look what he's doing. I mean, that dude can coach.
It's not that he couldn't coach; it's because he coached LeBron.
But that's the point. Is that he survived LeBron leaving. He survived LeBron. Mm-hmm. I mean. How many coaches have been fired in Cleveland since LeBron got there? He's on at least the second coach.
Miami also gets Dwayne Wade back.
Well, that's true, but still, he's clearly able to coach Dwayne Wade because he's got Dwayne Wade.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying
he's got Dwayne Wade doing something that they can't get Carmelo Anthony to do.
I'm saying you look at a guy like Dwayne Wade and see how much of a help he is in the locker room because of his experience, because of his pedigree.
Yeah, I mean. Okay.
He can command the attention and then pass that. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm saying it certainly helps versus a younger squad who thinks that they're better than you because they're on the floor and you're not.
Here's 2 quick questions. Well, first of all, this isn't part of my 2 quick questions. You agree that Billy Donovan's done?
I think so. I
don't see any way he survives.
If this finishes 4-1, unless they come back and win, he's gone.
I agree. His only chance is to sweep the last 3 games of this series and win. What else? I mean, what else happens? Is Sam Presti untouched in this?
I think so.
I mean, because this is a team that Sam Presti built.
What does happen, though, is I think Paul George looks elsewhere.
Oh, Paul George is done. He's gone.
And I think Carmelo Anthony may do the same thing.
He can't. You have to buy him out or trade him.
No. You can't even trade him.
Well, he has to agree to it.
Well, he has to essentially say, I'm open.
And he's like, what, $28 million next year?
I have no idea.
And so, I mean, what do you do? I mean, if I'm Oklahoma City, again, I get it. Thunder guys, I love you, and I get it. They're going to say, you're just a hater. But if I'm Oklahoma City, it's time to burn it down, man, and start over. You've got Russell Westbrook. He's your all-star. You've got Steven Adams. He's the good, he's the Robin to Russell Westbrook's Batman. And then from there, I mean, everything's a rebuild. New general manager, new coach. Paul George, don't even try. He's done. Paul George is not coming back to Oklahoma City. And here's a good point that Craig made last night when watching the game. He said, Paul George has had a great season. And in the playoffs, we did our top 5. Paul George is the only Oklahoma City player we've included in the top 5. Mm-hmm. He has done his part. But the people around him have not. And remember what he said when he came. Hey, show me we can win a championship here, and I'm here. But if we can't win a championship, I really want to do that. We're not winning a championship. This same team comes back next year, even with a different coach, they're not winning a championship. And Billy Donovan, I was not high on Billy Donovan when they hired him. I feel like they made a mistake by letting Scott Brooks go. I did. I felt that way. Scott Brooks isn't getting dominated in the playoffs.
He's with Washington, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying you look at what Washington
exactly. I felt like Billy Donovan was out of his element. You can't bring a college guy in to coach Russell Westbrook. It doesn't matter who. This team's not winning a championship next year.
They need Greg Popovich.
Paul George. They need Phil Jackson. Paul George he's done. He's left coast somewhere. He's out of here. But Sam Presti's the guy who put all this together, and he left. Name me a bench player that you feel like you can go to confidently on this team.
I will say with the Thunder, it's got to be Raven Felton. And I don't know how. I don't know how, but he makes things happen.
Okay, I'll give you Felton. Mm-hmm. Patrick Patterson, maybe, but he didn't leave much of a bench. He did not leave much of a bench at all, and that's on Presti. That's not on Billy Donovan. So that's just my 2 cents on the matter. Let's move on because there are some spring sports at the University of Oklahoma right now. Our man Chris Plank was actually on for a little bit. He's the play-by-play voice for Oklahoma softball. I know he was checking in on us because it shows me on Facebook that he did. Let's start with baseball. You and I talked not too long ago about the baseball team. I think we were actually at the Texas game. One of the 3 games against Texas, and you were doing your thing, taking photographs. I was doing my thing, just hanging out in the press box, eating free food. And you asked me this question. You said, is this baseball team legit? Is this the real deal?
Yeah, I said, are they for real?
And I don't remember exactly what I said, but I kind of felt like I said, we're about to find out because they're going to face some real pitching and real hitting over the next couple of series.
No, you said you agreed.
Did I say that? Mm-hmm. Are you sure?
Positive.
Man, I wish we could go back and roll the tape.
I have it recorded.
Having watched them drop 2 of 3 to Texas at home, 2 of 3 to Texas Tech on the road, and now you got the Bedlam series coming up. How do you feel about them?
So I do want to just really quickly reference those series that you're talking about because Oklahoma's remained competitive throughout the year. And as we talked about this, specifically about the pitching staff, it was that they had very clear Friday, Saturday starters. Sunday was still a work in progress. I don't feel like that's changed. Sure, they're getting wins over Texas. They got a win over Texas Tech on Sunday games while dropping the other 2, but they maintained leads with their starters in there on Friday. Not so much Saturday against Texas Tech, but Friday, Saturday against Texas, and then Friday against Texas Tech. I think ultimately what we're seeing in the Big 12 is quality pitching. You talk about a Texas Tech team that's number 4 in the country. They're not there for no reason. Oklahoma leads them all the way up until they essentially walk a guy home to give away that lead and the game. Needless to say, Oklahoma, I think, is the real deal at this point in time. Skip Johnson, he's been with the program for a couple of years now. He's worked with this pitching staff. He knows what he has on the roster. It's not a surprise to him, but I think we can thank the emergence of a guy like Kyler Murray, who didn't play a ton last year, playing quite a bit this year and having a significant impact. You've got Steele Walker, who's consistently grown into the role that they have given him. They have a first baseman, a true freshman in Cade Cavalli, who swings a pretty heavy bat apparently, but he's a guy who's a little bit like Sheldon Noisy, and that he can step onto the mound if he is absolutely needed as a last resort.
Nice Sheldon Noisy.
Yeah, I know, right? There. Needless to say, is this team the real deal? I think they are. Did they run into a little bit of a hurdle? Yes, as we head into Bedlam, I expect it to be an extremely competitive series. I don't know who I'm going to give the edge to. I would like to give it to Oklahoma, but again, if Oklahoma gets that lead and then they have to rely on relief pitching to get them through, it's going to put things in a little bit of a shaky state for me.
Oklahoma State, number 1 right now in the Big 12 at 12-3 in conference play, followed by Texas, Texas Tech. Both of those schools took 2 of 3 from the Sooners. Texas Tech technically has the tiebreaker over Oklahoma. Both of them equal 10-5 records in conference. You go and you take 2 or 3 or sweep the Bedlam series, and you're back in the driver's seat, so to speak, as far as conference play goes, and you're back, to win the regular season Big 12 championship. I do feel like this team is better than what we've seen in the past, but I agree with what you said. Relief pitching, and when we've talked about pitching was going to be the difference maker. Right now, 27-15 on the season. If things hold, if the pattern holds right now, they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. I think they're going to be a tough out in the Big 12 tournament. I don't know that I can confidently say, based on what I've seen the last 2 weekends, that they're going to jump back to the top of the Big 12 standings in Bedlam this weekend. And that's, it pains me to say that because I want Oklahoma to win the Bedlam series, and it's been a while since they've done so. They need it. They actually need this. Because you drop 2 more games, or you drop 3 games, suddenly you're 10-7, 10-8 in conference, and you're getting a lot closer to TCU than you are getting to Oklahoma State and Texas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm looking, I pulled up the rankings or the Big 12 standings here. And one thing I guess that I didn't recognize was Oklahoma State's at the top of that.
That's what I just said.
I know. And so you're saying it, I'm pulling it up because I'm a little bit in disbelief by that statement because of what I said prior in that Texas Tech is the number 4 team in the country. Oklahoma State's not up there.
Right.
But again, so like I said, I just went in and pulled things. Clearly, Oklahoma State is on a little bit of a roll. What we want to know is how well are they going to play at a neutral site, because neither team has played at a neutral site when it comes to conference games. I show 0-0 at this point in time, all the way down the list. When we go to overall, Oklahoma State hasn't played at a single neutral site, whereas Oklahoma is 1-2. Again, I just don't know what to expect in that series, and so we're going to continue to sit here and debate nothing until that series actually happens.
Yeah, it's to me, it's just crucial. It's absolutely crucial to Oklahoma to win this weekend, because it just changes everything about the season. It changes everything about the Big 12 play. It just you got, like I said, you lose this series and you're a lot closer to TCU than you are Oklahoma State, Texas, and Texas Tech. That's where you don't want to be, because there's a cutoff line when people start looking at RPI rankings. They start looking at conference scheduling. You want to play with the big boys, and taking 1 out of 2 games isn't really, in my opinion, enough to do exactly that. Thoughts? Agree, disagree?
Yeah, I do agree with you at this point, and we'll see what
happens.
Moving on. What happens.
Softball. Softball is pretty good. Actually, a shocker. The Sooners lose at number 4 Oregon last Thursday. Not only did they lose, I wasn't as shocked that they lost as much as I was shocked that they got shut out. This is a powerful offense that's led by Jocelyn Allo. She has. They said this before the season started, that she's one of the.
Man, it wasn't only that they were shut out. Allo,
she had the one hit.
One hit.
Yeah, exactly. They completely shut down Oklahoma's offense, but the Sooners bounced back after that loss to win back-to-back shutout wins over Oregon State, 4-0, and then 8-0. They're playing Wednesday night at North Texas, and then they get to come back to Norman to host the Longhorns before getting ready for a Bedlam series themselves. Your opinion here on softball?
Yeah, really quickly, when you look at Oregon, I thought that was a good measuring stick to see where Oregon as well as Oklahoma stacked up against the rest of these teams hoping to compete for a national championship and are expected to be one of 8 who get those national 8 seeds and host regionals and potentially super regionals. When we saw that matchup, I don't know if you realize this, but Oregon as well as OU are in the top 4 in ERA. Mm-hmm. I expected it to be a pitcher's duel. I didn't expect a team to compile 5 runs, maybe between the 2 of them, but 5 runs just from Oregon was a little bit of a shocker. So I think it was a wake-up call for Oklahoma. You know, they had that 30-game win streak. Things weren't necessarily coming easy because they had a 1-run win against Tulsa prior to that, but they were getting in the groove and really feeling like they could beat anyone. Mm-hmm. That wake-up call comes against Oregon, who was the number 4 team in the country at the time, and I just think it's going to light a fire under this Oklahoma team. I don't know that they'll go undefeated all the way through to the national championship game. I'm not expecting that. But we saw what happened last year when Oklahoma was the number 10 national seed and made that run. They outed Oregon, if you recall correctly. Right. They outed Oregon from the Women's College World Series and then went on obviously playing Florida in that national championship game. Needless to say, I think Oklahoma is really focused in on the task at hand. Oklahoma State's a decent team this year. I don't know if you were aware. They also have...
let me interrupt you. Yes, they're decent, but they're 34-14. Mm-hmm. Second place in the Big 12. That's 11 more losses than Oklahoma has. I mean,
it is.
Here's my next... I mean, I'm sorry to jump in here, because the next 2 series are against... Oklahoma, in my opinion, clearly the best team in the Big 12. Mm-hmm. 12-0 in conference play. But the 2 best teams behind them are Texas and Oklahoma State. Mm-hmm. Do they sweep those series, in your opinion, put you on the spot? Are they going 6-0 there? Or, as you see them maybe dropping a game in one or both of those series?
I mean, there's always the potential to drop a game. I'm not naive enough to think that Oklahoma's just that good, because I expected them to put up a couple more runs against a team like Tulsa. But regardless, to answer your question, is the potential there for them to drop one? It is. Do I think it happens? I don't. They're just too good defensively. If you can't kind of rattle this Oklahoma team and get out ahead and put some pressure on them, they're going to roll to victory after victory. And we see a lot of these victories are coming without Paige Parker and without Paige Lowry even stepping into the circle. We're seeing Mariah Lopez and we're seeing Parker Conrad do their fair share of carrying the load from the pitching staff. So, I mean, Oklahoma's just a difficult team to really nail down, but they're even more difficult to get a lead against.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. But I'm just saying it would not surprise me to see them maybe drop a game, because they're kind of, I hate to use the word slump, but you mentioned that Tulsa game. Mm-hmm. There was the Kansas series, the game, we were at one of the games that was actually, we're sitting there pre-game, and I said, I expect this to be a run, because the same night we're going over to the Texas game. We're going to cover OU Kansas first, softball, and then we're going to go over to the Texas game. And I was like, this is going to be a run roll, because Kansas is the worst team in the Big 12. But that game, I think it was 5-0, and it got to 5 on an in-the-park home run by Allo. And the reason it was in-the-park home run is because the right fielder died in the process of trying to catch that ball, and it rolled all the way to the fence. So they're not playing their best right now.
The reality, Matt, was that Kansas series, there weren't home runs being hit either because of the wind. I mean, it was at one point in time I look up and the flags are blowing east. The next time I look up, they're blowing to the west. And all of a sudden we're covered in the shroud of smoke.
Right.
I just think there were a lot of uncontrollable issues that were taking place over, the game that you and I were in attendance for. when Oklahoma was playing or hosting Kansas.
All right, so we want to move on, finally kind of close this thing out, talking about NFL draft coming up this weekend. Is there anything that I'm leaving off the list? There's one more thing, if we have time, I want to come back to, is Russell Westbrook. I had a thought. You want to jump to that real fast before we go to the draft?
Go for it.
Here's what I'm curious to know. Going back 3 conversations ago, we talked about, I'm trying to hold your hand. Again, that's going to be weird on people who listen to it in the audio and didn't see the video.
It's just a fist bump.
Yeah, that's what it was. Fist bump across the table. It's going to be interesting. We both agree that Paul George is kind of out the door, right? It's going to be interesting. What I want to know here is going to be the post-teammate relationship that Russell Westbrook has with Paul George. Is this going to go mutually respectable as they part ways, or is this going to go nuclear in a la Kevin Durant?
I don't think so.
I'm curious to know. I feel like the jury's out on that because, and Kevin Durant's a bad guy. I mean, no, the dude can't even figure out Twitter, and he's subtweeting all these other things about Russell Westbrook, liking tweets. Kevin Durant has his own set of issues. They both couldn't survive as alpha male. But the thought is, I'm curious to know because there is this stereotype persona that people outside of Oklahoma City have of Russell Westbrook. And he's done a good job at quelching that here in the city. But you go to other markets and you hear the things that are said about Westbrook and they're not great. And the thing about that performance in Game 4 where he just lost his mind, it kind of supported a lot of those stereotypes. He's a me-first guy. He's a selfish player. He doesn't think of team. And you saw that unravel on the floor. And you think, okay, Kevin Durant's messed up. He's got his own set of issues, but maybe he wasn't super crazy. Maybe he's just crazy. I want to see what happens between Paul George and Westbrook. And the reason why I'm going to support your decision to say probably nothing's going to happen is because I think Paul George is a lot smarter than Kevin Durant. And you're not going to see Paul George saying stupid things all the time. And you're not going to see him interact on Twitter the way Kevin Durant does.
The only thing I was going to say is a lot of these players are friends before they're ever teammates. Mm-hmm. You think about the circuits that they play on. A lot of them played in some kind of McDonald's All-American game or in high school games against one another. There's some familiarity from that level forward. Needless to say, I mean, we're going to get that when in this draft specifically, you talk about, I can't even remember his name, Michael something was going to play at Missouri, ended up breaking his leg or something, never played for Missouri except towards the end of the season. He's going to be a high top 10 draft pick this year.
Okay,
good. I'm glad we had that conversation. So that completely mooted that point. Here's all I'm getting at is Russell Westbrook and Paul George have played together before they were ever teammates on the Thunder, right, with USA teams, etc. If they were friends then, I don't see one season tarnishing that. I don't see one playoff series tarnishing a friendship.
I agree.
It's the heat of the moment. We'll write it off. I mean, you and I have had weird, crazy,
because
not so
I
friendly
genuinely
issues.
Don't like you.
That's not true.
You haven't seen my sub-Twitter accounts. All those likes on my Twitter,
so you can't subtweet.
Oh, I subtweet you all the time.
Because I'll never see them.
That's exactly
that's
what Kevin Durant's banking on.
Needless to say, though, Matt, is my answer is no. Nothing happens.
All right. I mean, just curious to watch. Not trying to instigate again. I know people, Thunder guys, are going to hate on me and say things that aren't true, but I can see how they can perceive those. Stop touching my computer. Okay. NFL draft. We've got to shut it down here time-wise, but really I've got 4 players, though, I want to talk about for the Sooners, starting with Baker Mayfield.
Mm-hmm. Did you see the latest tweet about him?
About being in play for Cleveland?
No.
Oh.
It's that the New York Jets have canceled all their other meetings with quarterbacks.
See, I hate that. And here's the thing. I mean, I said, I wrote the post, and I picked him to go number 3 to the Jets. And I hate that because I'm a Miami Dolphins fan.
And I go number 11 to Miami.
I don't think he's not going to be there at number 11. If Miami is going to get him, which I would love for Miami to get him, but if Miami is going to get him, they're going to have to find a way to move up and take him before the Jets. And there's a chance. I mean, we're way going down the crazy train again. I think if I'm Cleveland, here's the thing with Cleveland. You can't miss. Cleveland cannot afford to miss. So why not trade down that top pick?
And you can have anyone on the board at number 1.
But who? Let me ask you this: who?
I agree with you now.
Who at number 1? Because I've got issues with Sam Darnold.
I've
got a lot of issues. I haven't seen that movie.
I know how this plays out. And Cleveland could be a big winner.
I've got issues with Sam Darnold. I've got a lot of issues with Josh Rosen. I've got issues with the Allen kid. And I understand there's issues with Baker Mayfield when you talk about size. Who's out there? Saquon Barkley? Who's out there that you can say with our top pick, we can't miss, so we're going to get this guy? Mm-hmm. There's not a person out there that fits that for Cleveland with the top pick. You've already got two first-round picks. Trade one of them and get 3 first-round picks. Get 4 first-round picks. Because I promise you there are teams like maybe the Miami Dolphins. Because if the Miami Dolphins don't get a quarterback, I don't think one's going to be available at 11. If they don't trade up and get a quarterback, then it's going to be another year of Ryan Tannehill for the Miami Dolphins, which means they're going to be 500, maybe make the first round of the playoffs and lose. That's just me speaking as a Dolphins fan. All that said, Baker's going to the New York Jets with the number 3 pick. Your thoughts?
It's hard to disagree at this point. And I know there has been some talk. If we were
there, buddy?
Yeah.
You need drinking my tea?
I do. If we wanted to talk about number 1 picks over the past several years, things have seemed to set themselves in stone. I know there was a huge surprise just a few years ago. So minus that anomaly, we pretty much know who's going to be that number 1 pick heading into the draft. We're, a week out?
Well, we're 2 days out. It's Thursday.
So we're 2 days out, and no one can tell you who that number 1 pick is going to be?
I think because Cleveland doesn't know.
The waters are pretty murky. I agree with you. Trade down. Get some experience on that roster and guys that you can use immediately, and then take a draft pick maybe a little bit further down. Still, obviously, in the top 10 is what you're going to be aiming for. Needless to say, when it comes to the draft, when it comes to Baker Mayfield, he has the potential to be number 1, but I think his most likely landing spot is number 3, as you said.
And I hate that. Again, I hate it because
Guess what?
What?
It's not your decision.
But here's the thing. If you're a Dolphins fan like I am.
Maybe he doesn't sign. He plays in the XFL or something like that.
If you're a Miami Dolphins fan, you approach, really, Buffalo, New England, and New York, much like Oklahoma fans approach Texas. You just never cheer for them. And I don't want to be forced to cheer for the Jets. And I don't want to be forced to cheer against Baker Mayfield 2 times a year.
It's too bad.
I hate it.
You're not cheering against Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
It's not a me versus them mentality.
No, if
it's a we versus them.
No, if the Jets are playing the Dolphins,
then you're rooting against the Jets.
But
you want Baker Mayfield to have a good game.
No, I do not. I absolutely
You just want him
don't.
to lose.
Yeah, I don't want. I want him to throw 7 interceptions. Is what I want him to do if he's playing against the Dolphins. If he goes to any other team other than the Jets, the Bills, or the Patriots, then I don't have that problem. But I have that problem if he goes to the Jets, and I think that's where he's going. All right, you wrote an article on Orlando Brown. I'm kind of disappointed that you caved in.
I caved in for the article because I caved in.
Oh, you only caved in for the article?
But I told you, we had a private group, not a group chat. We had a little text message chat going, and I told you how I really felt.
Tell them how you really feel.
So my assessment of a guy like Orlando Brown after the NFL Combine was that he certainly deserved to tumble. Matt, you and I were having a conversation, and we were talking about protecting your assets, protecting your draft picks. Your investment. Yeah. And you had made the argument that Orlando Brown would go somewhere in the third.
Mm-hmm.
In the article,
where did I tell you he was going to go? I can't remember.
The New York Giants.
The Giants, yeah, that's what it was.
In my article, I went with that, and that was I had read just an argument saying every system, every program, every franchise has a very specific set of skills or size that they're looking for a position. If a guy doesn't fall in that or qualify by those standards to be drafted in the first round, why draft him in any round? And that came off of NFL.com, just in case you are curious, from an NFL GM as it pertains to Orlando Brown. I agreed with that, and I bought into your statement, but reality for me, and I keep going back to this, is I don't think there's a ton of offensive tackle talent in this year's class for the NFL draft, which I think gives rise to a few other players such as Orlando Brown to sneak in to that second round. By all means, I could see a team like Baltimore taking him in the second round.
Well, see, and I told you that. I said if he's going to go in the second round, Baltimore is exactly the team that I picked. I just don't think those first two rounds, there's a lot of money involved. Obviously, more money involved in the first round than there was the second round. Third round, you're still guaranteed money, but it's not as much as first and second. Once you get in the fourth round and down, you kind of got to earn your spot. You still get money, but you're not guaranteed. I don't think Orlando Brown falls to where he doesn't get guaranteed money, but I do think, and here's my statement on that, my mindset. Clearly, the NFL Combine is a big deal.
It is.
Right?
Measurables are always
not just measurables.
That's what the NFL Combine is.
But I'm saying, you're a GM, you're a talent scout, and you know how big of a deal this weekend is to all these guys that are coming in because they want to make money. Everybody that goes to the Combine wants to make money. And Orlando Brown showed up to this giant, big event out of shape.
A job interview.
Yes. I mean, if you're working at 7-Eleven, you're the manager, and the guy comes in with tattoos on his face, wearing like his hair in a bun, and earrings down to his shoulders, and no shirt on, you're not hiring that dude. He didn't take the job.
Did you say McDonald's?
Well, McDonald's, I got other thoughts about McDonald's. But anyway, do you know, see, man, you started this. I went to McDonald's the other night with my kids, and you order it yourself now, McDonald's. You got the little kiosk.
You have an 8-year-old who won't let me do that.
Well, here's the reason why. Even if you order it yourself, they still mess it up.
And that was her point. She said they will get it wrong.
Yes, they still mess it up.
So, because we're on the subject, I ordered face-to-face with the cashier, and our food came out wrong.
I'm just saying, it's like, it is a staple of McDonald's.
Back to what we're talking about.
Mess your order up.
The NFL Combine, the biggest job interview for any of these collegiate athletes.
And Orlando Brown shows up unprepared. Now, if I'm a GM, I'm going to the pro day, and I'm thinking, okay.
Which, Matt, this baffles me.
What do you think it does to guys who want to invest millions of dollars?
The thing was, he was working with Jamal Brown. He was the best to play at Oklahoma at the position.
He wasn't working.
How does this happen?
He wasn't working. And the thing is, I'm going to the pro day in Norman. I'm going to say, okay, look, this guy made strides from the combine to here.
Which is where I think he stabilized himself.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he stabilized and that he kept him from falling even further.
Well, being undrafted.
But you can't make that up. I mean, you can't make that ground.
So,
if I'm a GM and this guy has all the potential in the world, but he shows up to the biggest event of his life unprepared, how's he going to prepare for game day? How's he going to prepare for the playoffs?
But he did well in his interviews. He at least showed something.
Well,
here's what I'm saying.
Wait, hold up. Interviews is about character, the character of the person. And Orlando Brown is a good character person. He's not a bad guy. Right. I don't see him as a guy that's going to get in a lot of trouble. He's a high IQ guy. But he did not prepare for that, and because he can't prepare for that, I cannot invest first or second round money into him.
I agree, and I think a huge part of that issue is we talk about kids who things come easy. Orlando Brown 6'7", 415. Because of those numbers, Orlando Brown could skate by on collegiate edge rushers or defensive lines in general because he could weather the storm that they were about to put on him. One, because of his weight, but two, because of his ability to slide, to sidestep and cover like 7 feet of ground, as well as the length of his arm. So he had a lot working in his favor, and I think that may have posed a problem for him that he wasn't aware of until the combine.
Maybe, but it was more than just one thing that he meant. I mean, the combine was awful all around.
Yeah. Well, did you hear what his plan was?
Huh.
When he sat down to do the bench press, his plan was to hold his breath for the first 10. The first 10 reps, he was going to hold his breath. I mean, you know where he breathed at?
Maybe 2?
4.
4?
Yeah, and it caved. He said it rattled him that he couldn't make it. Regardless of his plan, I do agree with you, and it showed a lack of preparation.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got Orlando going in the 3rd round, and I picked the Giants. Mm-hmm. Mark Andrews, Obo, those are the 2 guys I want to talk about. I see Baker as the only first-round guy.
I agree.
I think
I wouldn't have said that initially.
No, I'm with you.
But I think Mark Andrews, he's probably going to go somewhere in the 3rd round.
I think he's the second. I think he's a second-round guy because of his. He's going to be a tight end in the NFL. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be that receiver where you automatically draw a defensive back. But I think that's good for him because of his size. He's going to draw linebacker coverage coming off the line. That's how they want to use him.
Right.
I think there's...
They talked about using him as a slot receiver.
I just don't... I mean, maybe because what's his face out in San Diego does it. I can't think of his name. Phillip Rivers' big target. Gates.
Antonio Gates.
Yeah, they do that with Gates out there. New Orleans had a guy they did it with. And I can't think of tight ends' names all of a sudden.
Jimmy Graham?
Graham, yes, but he's with Seattle now.
Yeah.
But I see more as a Gronk guy. I mean, you're going to line up there because he's got that big frame. They're going to put some more muscle on him, and they're going to beef him up a little bit. And he is going to be a nightmare in the red zone for some teams. And I think people see that in him. He's not a first-round guy, but I definitely think he can be a second-round guy. If he slides, he's going to be gone by the 3rd round. You've got a cheat sheet, don't you?
No. I was reading about, because this is mentioning Tyler Eifert.
Oh, okay.
You were mentioning names, and I was
gotcha.
I was thinking he may be comparable. I don't know. I just don't know.
All right.
This one, it is a cheat sheet, but it has him from the 2nd to the 4th.
Okay, so we both could be right there. All right. So last but not least, because we do got to cut out of here, Justin Hunt online. What's up, Justin? Hope you're doing well.
You were talking about Obo. I think he goes in the 3rd.
I see. And here's my question about Obo. No, because I feel like this is a legitimate question. Mm-hmm. Where's he going to play? What position?
He is going to be a tweener guy.
So
he's going to be a linebacker in the NFL. He has to be. But I don't think he has the coverage ability to be full-time. So for me...
okay, go ahead. For you.
I was going to say for me, he comes in obvious passing downs and is an edge rusher.
That limits you.
It does.
Unless you're really, really, really good at it, which Obo is. Here's the thing. There's a lot of comparisons. Some of it I think legitimate. Some of it I think is not warranted. But there's a lot of comparisons to Eric Stryker. But Eric Stryker was good. He was really, really good. Obo's better because of his body type. I don't know for sure that he's going to, like you're saying, he's not going to make it as a defensive end. I don't think he's going to make it as a full-time linebacker, but he could be that off the edge, 3rd down, 2nd and long pass rusher, and he could be a specialist at it. I think he can sneak in the 2nd round. I think he's more likely 3rd round, but I think he can sneak in the 2nd.
Someone will take a chance on him for potential, and that's really what we're looking at here is potential, process, coachability.
Right.
Can you mold them into not the player that they are, but can you mold them into what you want them to be and how you intend to use them?
For sure. All right. It's good to be back, man. He's Rich. I'm Matt. Heartland-sports.com. Catch us on Twitter. Huh?
You're fat.
No, I'm not.
What you said? Oh.
Hey, you know what? Someone told, because those of you who don't know.
You're super proud of this moment.
What are you talking about?
I know where you're going. Go for it.
What? Where am I going?
Just go for it.
You have no idea.
I'm not going to spoil it.
You have no idea where I'm going.
Apparently, I don't.
No,
So
you
share
don't.
it.
Someone told me. Okay, for those of you who don't know, my job takes me out of the country all the time now, and I basically live in Panama. I work in Colombia, but I try to come home as much as I can. Someone told me in their circle of influence, they referred to me as Panama Matt. And I said I should get the hat. So I could be Panama Matt with a Panama hat. And people are instantly regretting listening to the final 30 seconds of this podcast because of that right there. He's Rich. I'm Matt. Heartland-sports.com. Twitter, Sports Heartland. Check us out. Follow us. Give us some love. And we will try to be back after the draft to talk about more of the things that happened, where we were right, where we were wrong. Also talk about baseball and softball this weekend and whatever else. Maybe the Thunder are still playing next week. Doubtful, but maybe. Take care, guys. Boomer Center.